Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys are all having a great Monday, had a great weekend. If you're a Newcastle fan, and you probably are if you're watching this video, I have no doubt you had a good weekend after Newcastle beat Fulham 4-1 on Saturday at Craven Cottage. We won our first game against Nottingham Forest this season. We've been playing well, we've picked up quite a few draws. The points haven't quite fell in our favour because of various decisions that I won't get into today, but not to say that we weren't confident, not to say that we haven't been playing well, but I just felt like coming back from the international break, if we can go down there, we can get a win, we can score the goals, we can get 3 points, then hopefully it can just not change the season, because as I say, I think we have been playing well, but just to get that confidence boost, get that team photo in the changing rooms again, and we got all of that at the weekend. A great 4-1 win. It did help that Fulham got a man sent off. That always helps. 10 minutes in, they go and get themselves a red card, but we had to go out and we had to get the job done. And I've seen people on social media saying, let's not get carried away. I think it's a bit of both. It's fine to be excited. We've just won 4-1, but at the same time, it's still early days, and we've got another big game coming up this weekend against Brentford. But coming on today to talk a bit of news. Callum Wilson, we saw start the game, got himself a goal, a fantastic goal. There's some news coming out on him today. Miggy scored 2 goals. Is that the confidence boost he needs stepping into the rest of the season? And if you thought our midfield looked good at the weekend, it could be looking even better very soon as players are set to return from injury. But let's start off with that man, Callum Wilson, who, as I mentioned, came back, the number 9. We've mentioned in the last few games, obviously Isak's picked up an injury. He started really well against Liverpool, got a goal. We saw him score against Crystal Palace as well. And it's not just on him. Miggy was in the same conversation. There was a few players where we're having a lot of shots, but weren't scoring the goals. That's the one thing you do get with Callum Wilson is clinical finishing. He's scored pretty much a goal every 4 shots he has, he scores a goal or something. So had he played in the Bournemouth and Crystal Palace games, he could well have scored 10 because we had that many shots. And as I say, despite the fact that Fulham got a player sent off, we still needed to get the job done. And Callum Wilson, within literally 3 or 4 minutes, puts the ball in the back of the net. The ball comes over. I think it was Willock who headed it down. Callum Wilson stabs it home. And big news on him coming out this morning is that he has now signed a new 2-year deal with the club, not officially announced by Newcastle at the time of recording, but a whole host of outlets are reporting that he has now signed a new deal. It's not 100% being confirmed yet, as I say, but there's a lot of people reporting this and it looks good to go. Some of the information coming out is that maybe he hasn't signed it right now. He hasn't scored the goal, come off the pitch and signed a new deal. It's thought that potentially, the deal was kind of agreed over the summer, but those changes have started to take effect as of now. It's understood that he has signed or is part of a new 2-year deal, which would take him to 2024. If I'm not mistaken, I still think Callum Wilson had a few years left on his contract. I think potentially one of the bigger things is that they've brought his wages up to potentially match some of the higher paid players now at the club. If you think that following the takeover, Wood is one of the highest paid players on 100 grand, and I think Isak's on the same, if not potentially higher. So that's the 2 other strikers we're potentially getting, close to 40, 50 grand more, and you would still call Callum Wilson our number 1 striker right now. So I can understand why maybe they wanted to bring those measures in. So it's 2 years till 2024 with the option of an extra year. So that's a big one. Let me know your thoughts on Callum Wilson's new contract down below. As I've said, obviously Isak's come in, he's learning, he's progressing, and we're hoping over the next couple of years, or even quicker ideally, in a couple of games, second half of the season, he will be in full flow. But as he adjusts to the Premier League, there is still some some want and some hope that Callum Wilson can continue to provide in the way he always has. The struggle is with Callum Wilson and injuries, and that's kind of when it throws up this. He's 30 years old. Not to say that he isn't a fantastic striker, but then when he's 30 years old, he's injury prone. 3 more years left on a deal. I'm interested to know your thoughts, but the one thing that kind of switches that around a little bit, and there's a few reports out there, is that it's understood that some of the conversations taking place are also along the lines of, we're keeping on a very experienced striker, and as much as we want him to score the goals, should we bring in a new striker next summer? Should Isak become the first choice down the road? Callum Wilson can help bring these players through. He can help with Isak. He can help teach him in the Premier League. We saw Garang Kual, the brand new 18-year-old in the away end at the Fulham game. He's on his way through. It's understood that he will go out on loan for starters, but to come back and have a very proven striker in Wilson to teach these players throughout these next 3 years is a big thing to have. And as we discuss injury issues and everything else, Callum Wilson because right now I would say that Callum Wilson for me is still our number one striker. The hope is that Isak can challenge with that, and then Wood will likely remain, the backup to both of them. Should it come down to a point where Wilson's the backup, but is doing the off-the-field work with the players, and for a fact that if he's fit and we'll bring him on, then he'll add, I would not say that's a bad shout at all. So I'm happy for Callum Wilson. What we need now, as I say, is for him to stay fit, because if he's scoring, his conversion rate is cracking. He's got a goal pretty much every 2 games for Newcastle. I think he's scored in the last 4 competitive games he's played in, or 4 goals from 4 games. And if you think that's with an injury break in the middle. So I'm really happy to see Callum Wilson get that new contract. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. Is it right to give him the deal? Should we have waited a little bit longer? As I say, we don't know the full ins and outs. From some of what I'm hearing, he actually kind of had a deal lined up as it was already. We've just kind of actioned some of the add-ons in the contract. But let me know your thoughts on that down below. Long story short is Callum Wilson's staying for longer, and it looks like he's getting paid a little bit more as well. And as I say, a great game for Almiron as well. Another player who has been criticised, and I've criticised him. In the pre-season, there was so much talk of, are we going to now go out and bring in a new winger, someone to help with Maxi when Maxi's not there? Who's going to get the goals? Who's going to add? And in the pre-season, Almiron was doing that. Almiron was the man scoring all of the goals. He was exactly what we needed. Start of the season, gone a little bit quiet, and I'm thinking, oh God, maybe it wasn't the right answer. But he pops up at times, and I did criticise him. I think it was, the Bournemouth game, and when we didn't have Maxi, and it was like, if he's not there, then who's going to do it? And somebody needs to step up. And let's be honest, I'll mention it again, it did help that Fulham were down a man. I think we had a lot of good games in that team, but Miggy was obviously the one that stood out. And he needed to step up and take his chance. And I'm really glad he did. And there's loads of jokes about the Grealish Almiron stuff, which is hilarious, to be honest. But I'm really happy for him. I'm really hoping that not only is that the boost to the Newcastle side as we head into Brentford at the weekend and really try and get a few wins under our belt. As I say, the performances have been good. Let's get the points now as well. And to see Miggy score, such a fantastic goal. The ball comes over from Bruno. It's like he's almost like watching it over his shoulder as it lands, and with the outside of his foot puts it round the goalkeeper. I mean, if you haven't seen it at this point, I really suggest you go and watch it, because it is a tremendous goal. And had it not have been for offside, he would have had a hat-trick as well. And there's a stat out there that I was talking about last week. Miggy has the most touches in the box for any player outside of the top 6 in the league. So the traditional top 6. Miggy has had the most touches in the box of any other player of the other 14 teams. And up until, the weekend, he hadn't done anything. So to have that stat, it shows that at least he's getting there. He's getting in those positions, but you've got to add to it as well. So really happy to see that Miggy got himself off the mark. I'm praying now that that is now what he needs, and he can kick on from here, and he's got that license to go forward, and he's not scared to hit it with his right foot, because how much have we been moaning, how much have I been moaning that he's cutting in all the time, and the work ethic is there. We just wanted that little bit more, and I'm really pleased for him. And he's had spikes in the past when he's done well, and then kind of gone quiet. I'm hoping that's now right. Let's really get into this one. And as we talk about players having a great game, it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, because it's said that Jonjo Shelvey is now close to returning from injury for Newcastle United, which is a huge one. We saw Eddie Howe bring out the 25-man squad lists, and it was interesting to see that Shelvey was involved in those lists, and not because he's not a great player, but because it was understood his injury would likely take him out until November, when the World Cup starts up. And if that was the case, then by the time we got back for the January window and the World Cup had ended, you're able to redo the 25-man squad. So why were we listing Shelvey if he wasn't going to be ready? But it's looking like this is the reason why, and that is because it would appear that Shelvey could be back quicker than maybe first expected, which is a great position to be in. We talk about the centre-backs that we've got right now. We changed the defence up totally at the end of the Fulham game and ended up conceding, but Eddie Howe knew what he was doing. He wanted to get players on the pitch, he wanted to give people a run out, and it wasn't really at that point too much about whether we're conceded or not. It was more about letting players have a little bit of a run out. But we've seen him mixing it up with Burn and Target, Botman, Shaw, even Lascelles getting a go, and Liverpool Tranmere, where I thought he played quite well. Trippier's really the only one who's kind of got his place nailed down over on the right hand side. In midfield, however, and it's changing, and I'm hoping we will be able to continue to see some good rotations here as Wilson comes back, as hopefully Isak and Wood come back. We can see that in the forward positions. As Maxi comes back with Almiron, we can see a bit of mixing up there. Anderson, I thought he was in a shout for a game against Fulham, didn't start. In the midfield, really it's been nailed down as Bruno's been injured as well, but generally Joe Linton, Bruno, Willock. We didn't see Joe Linton for Fulham, which was odd. But I thought Longstaff did good. And Willock possibly had one of the best games I've seen him have in a little while. And I think sometimes Willock can be a bit of a confidence player. When things are going well, they seem to go really well. And when they're not going well, he really kind of disappears a little bit. To now have Jonjo Shelvey coming back into the frame to really try and, as I say, have that freedom of mixing it up. And one thing I really liked at the weekend, bearing in mind there was a red card, so that added to this, but Longstaff having a little bit more nous about him, that when Bruno started to move forward, he was able to kind of cover, and there was just a lot more flexibility. As I say, when you're doing it against 10 men and there's one less man to mark, it means that Bruno can kind of run forward with more freedom anyway. But it was one of the first times I feel like I've really seen, Bruno, we want to see Bruno play that more attacking role, and I think the plan was probably going to be Shelvey sits, Bruno and Joe Linton, Joey does whatever he wants. He does everything. But for Bruno to kind of have that freedom to go forward, because there's been no Shelvey, because I would say nobody else can really do that role, we've left Bruno in there. But against Fulham, I felt like that was the first time I've actually seen them two kind of interchange. So to have Shelvey back, that could allow us to hopefully give Bruno the freedom to really get more forward. And I wouldn't say that Bruno hasn't played well this season, because I think he has been good, but I think the times where we really saw him shine last season was when he was bursting into the box, when he was bursting in and scoring headers against Southampton, and when he was really able to get forward more. Against Nottingham Forest, first game of the season, I thought, when like Joey was going forward and everyone was kind of in sync moving forward, it worked. I'm hoping having someone like Shelvey back is going to just, really allow us to do that a lot more. So great news on Shelvey. Hopefully we hear a little bit more about that very soon. I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of reaction video to the game at the weekend, but also some great news coming out about Callum Wilson and a new deal. Hopefully seeing Jonjo Shelvey return to the frame, very well. As I say, it's not that long till the World Cup already, it's only a month and a bit. So if he is going to come back, I think it sounds like it will be relatively soon. He's already out doing like grass training with the team. I think it's light training. I wouldn't say he's getting involved in the games or anything, but he's out there, he's training. So let me know your thoughts on Shelvey returning. Would you throw him back in? Or is it now Bruno, Joey and Willock's place to lose? Or is it not about losing it, it's about allowing us to play the way we want to play? Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know your thoughts on the game down below. If you want some early predictions in for the Brentford game and how we can add to this, let me know. I'll be back tomorrow for the usual Toon Tuesdays where I've got loads to go through of stuff that's been happening throughout the week. So be sure to check that out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Loads of Newcastle and football content on the channel. And as I say, Toon Tuesdays tomorrow. We've got loads to get through as we start to build up for the game at the weekend. Alright guys, thanks for watching as always. Have a great night. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. And I'll catch you later.